I had been managing for a good while. At that stage, I was almost 20 years managing, although I was only 33. But Pats was my team. I I loved the place here. I always had a great respect for the managers, but I was doing quite well with the various teams I had. We'd always been in contention. I hadn't won a lot of trophies. I generally had teams that were just a little bit off the top. We finished runners up in the B division. I remember one season with Shelbourne, we were a really good team. But we had to play all the matches away. We'd no home ground. But I suppose I had an ambition in my head to manage in the League of Ireland, and the opportunity came with Paddy Beckham was the chairman at the time. Frank Dunn was involved too, and they offered me the job at one stage, maybe around 85, and I turned it down because I was enjoying working with Mick Lawler so much in Home Farm and the role I had there. But fortunately enough for me, and maybe even for them, that offer came again, maybe about a year and a half later, and I decided at that stage that I might not get the opportunity again because I had never played in the league. I wasn't particularly well known as a manager around the scene, although I was well known, I suppose, in football and in coaching. But it still took a big jump of faith for the board at that time to appoint me. I knew Frank Boylan, Lord Reston, was on the board at the time. He was involved with the Youth International Committee, the FAI. So I'd been with Liam Toohey and Noel O'Reilly working with the Youth International teams. I knew Frank. I knew Brendan Bourne. I used to see Brendan at the B Division matches. He was on the board also, and they encouraged me to come and have an interview for the job. I'm sure there was plenty of other people who are much better known than I was and had a higher profile. But anyway, the board decided to give me the job. Phil Mooney was involved back as far as then too, and I decided, I'd give it a go, and I had to go and tell Mick Lawler, who we were doing nicely in Drogheda at the time, be it in the first division. And I went down to Waterford to watch Pats, I remember, on a Sunday, and I started from the next day. John Cleary and Austin Brady had managed the team on a caretaker basis for a few weeks after Jimmy Jackson had left, until my appointment. And my first game here was against Galway United, which we won 1-0. I think John Cleary might have got the goal. That was my first league game, and it was on first week in December in 1986. When I came in December, it was probably getting towards halfway through the league. Remember, at that time the league would have been starting in August. So we were the team had already qualified for the Leinster Cup final, and I remember, I think that was, we played in Stephen's Day and we won the Leinster Cup final, which was nice to get a trophy at the start of it. But by the time the summer came, the end of the season, a lot of the players decided to move on. Jimmy Jackson, the previous manager, had gone to Athlone. A lot of the lads decided to join Jimmy in Athlone, so there was a good gap in the squad, let's say, which allowed me to bring in. A lot of them were very experienced players. I mean, John Cleary went to Dundalk and was very successful there. Austin Brady, who had managed with John, went to Athlone, but there was a lot of others. Fran Hitchcock went to Athlone, and Jim Grace, the goalkeeper. But it gave me space to bring in lads I knew who had played for me at other teams. Some of them in the reserves at Shelbourne. Some of them are underage teams I'd had previously, and players I knew around the youth leagues as well. So I was able to put my own team together for the start of the season, 87-88. And I think we were favourites to be relegated actually that season, but it turned out a lot better than that. We ended up going to the last game in Dundalk to win the league. We didn't quite do it. It was an unbelievable match. highly tense occasion. 1-1 draw. Brilliant game. We almost pulled it off. Unfortunately, our captain the night, Paddy Dillon, was put off in the second half of the game, but we still pounded the Dundalk goal, chasing the winner. We didn't get it. We finished second, which was a great achievement at the time, given where we come from. But we had an exciting young team, mixed with a few experienced players. Eamon Gregg was still around. Paddy Dillon had stayed around. Paddy had played for me at underage level. I'd brought in Johnny, as you mentioned, John McDonald, Dave Henderson, Maurice O'Driscoll, Mark Ennis, Paul Masterson, and a few other players who were to be the backbone of the team that won the league a couple of seasons later. That night it was just madness. It was pelting down with hailstones when the final whistle went in Drogheda. That picture is from Drogheda. When we won the match 2-0 up in Drogheda. I think it was Morris actually scored and John Tracy. We still had another game to go, but we clinched the league on the bank holiday Monday, Easter bank holiday Monday, in Drogheda to win. So that picture and the pictures around it, if you look at them closely, there's still white balls of hailstones falling down, but it could have been a tornado around us, and we didn't care. Such was the joy. I mean, you have to remember the last time a trophy had been won, it was 1956. So there was a lot of joy around 34 years later. Sorry, the league title had been last one. The cup had been won in 61, 62. But, so there was massive joy. It was an unbelievable evening. And remember, we'd also played the day before. It seems hard to credit now, but we played UCD the day before and we won 4-0 in Hurdles Cross. And we went home from that match knowing that if we won the next day in Drogheda, that was it. Drogheda were in a relegation battle, but in fairness to them, on the Sunday they went to Derry and drew with Derry, which made our task easier. At that time it was only 2 points for a win, but that extra point gap meant if we beat Drogheda, we won the title. Which so we went and did the job. It was a great day. There was masses of Pats fans there, and the majority of them were out on the pitch at the end of the game, and you can see some of them there. And many of those people in that photograph are friends of mine. They're still going, they're still coming, they're still either sitting on this side or standing on the other side on Friday nights. It was a difficult time after we won the league in 1990 because, we were expected to do well the following season. It didn't go quite as well. Already some of the better players were starting to move on because of financial reasons. They were offered better money, bigger money mainly by our rivals in Dublin. And by the end of 1992 season, 91-92 season, the majority of the team had gone to either Shamrock Rovers or Bohemians, including some of our best players. Mark Ennis went to Derry, which was an awful blow to us. Johnny Mack went to Rovers briefly. Paul Ozam went to Rovers. A clatter of them went to Bohemians, including Dave Henderson, Maurice O'Driscoll, Tony O'Connor, Robbie Best. And that was kind of deflating for me. It was also a bit deflating for some of them who stayed on. Damien Bourne retired and moved into management as well. He went to Bowes to work with Eamon Gregg. But some stayed, and the likes of John Tracy in particular were very loyal. And we built a new team. Yeah, we had financial difficulties while in Harold's Cross. There was the books, let's say, weren't looked after very well. There was some very very bad behind the scenes financial decisions made, and we were let down by some of the people. The leadership of the club at that time, the ownership and the shareholding changed a couple of times in that period. We had a liquidation receivership, but behind it all, the desire and the ambition to get back here into a new stadium remained. And once Tim O'Flaherty and the Blacks came into the picture, and Phil Mooney was still very much involved, as were some of the Costellos. People got back around and we got dug in, and a new board was formed, and Pat Dolan was around the scene very much so. Pat came in as a player initially, but ended up as the commercial manager and a lot of other things after. And there was a new vibrancy around the place. We got back here initially with the small stand in the middle, new dressing rooms, new pitch, new hope. It took from, I think we got back around Christmas, December 93. It took us till 95-96 season. Not too long really to win the league again. And it was another glorious era with so many brilliant players. So, we had a tough time for a couple of seasons. A lot of people took great financial risks and some financial hits, but there was great joy in the latter part of the 90s, with the league wins, with Liam's league win and Pat Dolan's league win. Unfortunately, there was a bitter spell as well in the contentious issue around the Charles and Basie Livingston, the signings, the disputes over the registration, the Paul Marney affair. And that was an awful time around the club, which left, I think, a bitter legacy between Shelbourne and ourselves, which probably only in recent years, while they've been in the lower division, it has healed, I think, to a degree. But it was a bad time, I think, for both clubs. The rivalry was great in terms of on the pitch, and on the terraces there was big crowds. But, I don't think it was good for either club overall at the time. And I think it was a sad time for the league. Badly handled by the league, badly handled by the FAI. And despite the best efforts, I think, of Tim O'Flaherty, the chairman here, it was badly handled on the other side. Well, Noel, it took me a couple of years, or a few years actually, to convince Noel to come and operate here, because he had a full-time job in the school up in St. Joseph's, and he worked his shifts were nighttime shifts when we were training in the night time. So it took a while for me to get Noel in. I eventually got him in, I think, in that period in the early 90s, after we'd won the first league, and we had a bit of a change around of staff here. Billy Baxter went his own way to work with Monaghan and Longford initially, and then Monaghan, and Paul Nugent moved on as well. Paul took a job in Scotland, and he wasn't available, so we had a bit of a change here. But Noel came in, and then Liam Buckley came in to work with me as assistant and player manager, player coach. And we had great staff. I always felt I had great staff here, committed staff, intelligent staff, supportive staff. And Noel, when I went to work for the FAI initially to run the youth teams, Noel was able to stay on and work here with Pat and Liam Buckley, and he did a great job in many different roles. I think he was hugely admired by the players and the staff. I'm not sure the supporters understood what a brilliant person he was and how infectious he was. I think the players always remember him. They remember his encouragement to go into coaching as well. So, then we paired up again with the national youth teams, and ultimately with the senior international team. So Noel played a great part in the successes here too. And though initially I think he probably was a Rovers man in his youth, I think he was converted to the Saints after his period here, and I think he's held and remembered with great esteem by Pat's people. We'd won the league, and the following season was going okay. We weren't at the top. I think we were around 4th or 5th at the time. The season, I probably didn't do enough in terms of renewing the squad. I was quite happy with the team won in '96. I mean, it was a smashing team. We had the four Galway lads. We had Peter Carpenter and Johnny Glynn, Noel Merna, and Ricky O'Flaherty, of course. We'd Willie Burke, who would come in from Rovers at left back. The centre half pairing of Johnny Mack and Davy Campbell. The brilliance of Eddie in the middle of the pitch. The goals of Martin Riley, Brian Morris-Rowe. John Tracy was still around. Ozo was back doing his brilliant stuff, and it was a brilliantly effective team. Gareth Bourne in goal, a great season, great penalty saver. So we had a very strong team and a strong squad. But I probably needed to strengthen that team and bring in maybe some more stronger players. But we were always working on a tight budget, and I was always very respectful of the finances of the club. So the job became available with the youth international team. I wanted to take on that challenge because the youth international teams had been very neglected during the Charlton years. After Liam resigned, Jack Charlton got the senior job and brought in setters with him, and Liam Toohey resigned from his position. Myself and Noel followed suit. But in that period, the great Charlton years of the senior team, the other teams were in shambles. The underage teams were in shambles. And I felt that somebody needed to go and take a hold of it. I decided that I would apply for it. But my ambition and intention was to stay here managing Pats and to do the youth international teams on a part-time basis. But unfortunately, the FAI insisted that it was a full-time role, so I had to leave my job in UCD and make the really, really tough decision to leave Pats. I knew it was in good shape. The board was very stable. Tim O'Flaherty, or Pete, as the chairman, was the most brilliant chairman I ever worked with. But there was a lot of good people around him at the time, and Tom Corcoran still coming to matches, still very much part of it. Noel Black still coming to the matches. Phil Mooney still involved. There was a lot of good people involved. They were there. Pat was obviously going to stay on. He stayed on as manager. But the decision to go wasn't really made by me. It was made by the fact that the FAI said it was an all or nothing, that I couldn't stay on Pats. So I decided to give it a go. And it was a really, really hard decision. But I was delighted to see the success maintained, not initially in that first season, but the following season the league was won again. And it was great to be here and see how the club progressed after I left, and they changed to full-time football, and the excitement Pat's teams brought. I mean, Pat Dolan's team, Liam Buckley's team, the days of the Ian Gilzean, the centre forward, scoring goals with many of the other players that I had. But the team advanced and improved. Those who was back, Martin Russell come in, Eddie Gormley was still here, all those left footers in the team together. Some of the foreign players started to come into the team, and they were great days, brilliant days. The place been packed here for big matches, big rivalries with our Dublin rivals, and Cork, of course, who had emerged again at that time, Derry City. I think of those days, I've been just a fan, as wonderful days. And some of the younger players were emerging, were starting to come into my teams as well, with the youth international teams, like Keith Doyle, who was so much part of our victory in Cyprus in '98, Desi Bourne, who had years here, went to Wimbledon, come back again and did a great job, and was very, very very strong in my youth team also at national level. And so many of the players went on to play even at under 21 level at that time. So it was a great time for the club. I enjoyed it as a spectator, as a fan, as a lover of the club. The reason I came back to the club was because at the time, once again, the club were under severe pressure financially. Andy O'Callaghan was the main shareholder, had invested an awful lot of his money as a young man. I think his resources were drained, as were many other people who had helped out over the previous few years. My main fear at the time was we were going to be headlocked into a ground sharing situation with Shamrock Rovers in Tallaght, which I, like many supporters of the club, felt was going to be a total disaster and might lead to the demise of the club altogether. This is our home. This area is our home. We've had brief spells away from it, not too far away over the years. We've been in Chapel Lizard We'd been in Milltown, they'd been in Dalymount briefly, and we'd been in Hartle's Cross, but always with the intention of getting back here. If we'd moved out in that period where the FAI withdrew support and funding, and by other pressure they put on to encourage us to go there, I don't think we'd be in the situation we're in today, which is still quite strong within our own home, with a great chairman, with a good group around the club. So, when Garrett Kelleher became interested in taking over the club and buying the club, one of his provisos was that I would become involved again. So, I decided at that time that maybe I owed a bit to the club as well, because they had been so good to me and given me an opportunity when I was a relatively unknown manager in the B Division League of Ireland back in '86, that I should go back to it and try and re-establish us as one of the top teams again in the league. So I came back and worked here as director of football role, worked with Johnny over that 18 months. We had a good spell. Unfortunately, we had a couple of second place in the league, didn't quite overtake Drogheda with the team at the time, and it was an interesting time. I suppose ultimately for me, I had a bit of frustration not to be actually coaching myself, and I decided it was better for me to move on and leave them at it, let the project walked away. There was a lot of great improvements over that period where we had a full-time setup. We were training out in Selbridge, really good facilities, the structures around the team where we had full-time medical staff, strength and conditioning. We were a little bit of ahead of the posse in many of the things we did at that time, but other clubs were catching up too. We had some good players, interesting signings, players not just from here, players from outside, from the English leagues, some foreign players, and it was an exciting time here. Some great nights in European football, and we need to get back to that. Hopefully this season will be better, and we'll get back to the European nights here, particularly the early rounds. I'd love to see us getting into a stadium situation that when we get to the latter rounds, we don't have to go and play in Tallaght or elsewhere, or the RDS, which we've had to do in previous European nights. But we've had a lot of great European nights here, an outstanding record, and I know everyone has the ambition and the desire to make that happen again. And I have to compliment the people who are around the club now on the great work they've done, on the loyalty of the owner. Garrett has done tremendous work. He stayed with it through some thick and thin, I'd say, over the last number of years. We've had the great joy of the league win in 2013, sensational time under Liam. Brilliant players, the Bulger, Chambers, Forrester around the middle of the field. Great goals, Christy Fagan. Brilliant win in the FAI Cup in 2014. One of the best days of my life, having been involved or been at all those losses over the years in the cup final. To commentate on the actual win in 2014 was one of the great days of my career. To actually see it happening, to be a witness to it, to try to be impartial for most of the match until the 89th minute when Christie got the second goal, and now that was done and dusted then, and maybe my impartiality went out the window in my joy at it actually happening, that the cup was won after the 53 years. It was a great night. So a great day in Lansdowne Road. So, please God, we'll have those good days again soon. There've been a couple of very tough seasons here, but not a bad season. The one just gone. A few good days, a few good nights, lots of good football with the young players coming through with Jamie Lennon in the middle of the field, and young Markey as well, and Toner, Kevin at the back. Interestingly, I signed his father, Brendan, here for Pats. It's gas to see his son playing now centre half, Lee Desmond. There's a lot of good potential here, but we need. I think we need a better balance in the team. We probably need a better balance in the style, and we also need to bring back the fear factor for opposition come here. I think it's been a bit too nicey in recent seasons here. There haven't been too many set piece goals. There's no great threat at either end when there's a corner kick. There were days here in the past where the opposition's defence and goalkeeper would be rattling with fear at the threat of free kicks and corners being whipped in to the 6-yard box and the big men coming in attacking the ball, and inevitably goals were scored. We need to get back to that here. We need to somehow bring back the passion into the area behind the shed, I would suggest, and also up at the top end at the stand here. Without a doubt, both days when we won the league, in Drogheda in 1990, in Dundalk in 96. Maybe Dundalk because it's more recent, and because of the difficulties we had in the 92-93 period. When we came back to the top again and did it in Dundalk, where we'd just narrowly got edged out in 88, it was such a joy that night, and the style we did it in, with Paul Campbell's sumptuous free kick into the top corner, where it lodged at the stanchion up in the top corner of the net with 4 minutes to go. Ricky's earlier goal to equalise their goal, the rainbow behind Ricky's head as he celebrated after the torrential rain early in the match. It was just such a great night. The surge of the Pats fans across the pitch at the end towards where we were, where Cyril, myself and Noel and everyone else were at the far side of the pitch. Just the sheer joyousness of that occasion is unforgettable for me, and certainly one of the greatest nights in my association with Pats, but also my own management career.